Just before we open it up to the audience, I wanted to ask Al one question that you touched on in your really good piece in the Foreign Service Journal in February. I'm an econ guy, as are you. It'd be nice sometimes if economic and commercial things were the only issues that embassies and the State Department could work on, but there are issues of politics and human rights and all of our other national interests. You referred to the QDDR, Secretary Clinton's effort, and could you just talk a bit about how you think that dealt with the economic issues, in relating them and putting them into a broader context of our overall national interest, and whether that is a step forward?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I think the QDDR exercise was a terrific thing for the Secretary to initiate, and I know for a fact that other foreign ministries on their own have begun to sort of reassess where they are and how they can better serve their national interests and serve their citizens. Not surprisingly, given my background, I was very much impressed by the way that the QDDR elevated the importance of functional bureaus. Now, that's not to say that it's at the expense of regional bureaus, but I think it reflected a reality that in today's interconnected, globalized world, you need a reservoir of knowledge about how to deal with some of the important cross-cutting regional issues like economics, business advocacy, the environment, and things of that sort. And I also, in that regard, I guess, was impressed by the fact that the specific recommendations were that one of my predecessors, Bob Hormats, should be explicitly in charge not only of Bureau of Economic, Energy, and Business Affairs, but also environmental affairs, that there should be a separate bureau for energy. Now, all of those things, when I was undersecretary, except for environment, I sort of largely coordinated. But this is really putting more muscle in this part of the State Department, and I think that reflects a reality, and I know that other foreign ministries are trying to do the same thing. I think it's also important that the QDDR put a focus on, more broadly, I think the service role of the State Department. And that's a service role to American citizens through the consular sections. Many of us, we may have started as economic officers, but our first real skills were learning how to make decisions about issuing visas and knowing how to get Americans out of jail and things like that, which remain very, very important. And if as a department you don't do a good job at providing those services, you suffer for it. It's not the same thing, but it's a similar issue with respect to services to business. Early in my career, there was an impression that the State Department, some State Department people didn't want to get their hands dirty with business advocacy work. And I think one of the great things that we were able to do, not in competition with the Foreign Commercial Service, but in partnership with them, was to really elevate the importance of business advocacy and commercial diplomacy. And Chuck, you referred to Sue Schwab, Larry Eagleburger's work. I made it a practice during all the years that I briefed outgoing ambassadors to tell them, you should study what FCS does. You should be really guided by them. But I'm telling you this, I'm going to break out the champagne the first day that someone comes to complain to me that an American ambassador was too zealous in the advocacy for American business. Make my day. Because that's what I would rather, even now, I think, I bet you and I would agree that we'd rather, if you're going to have an embassy or an ambassador or an FCS officer make a mistake, make it by being too strong, too aggressive, and pushing for American business interests.
Great. Great.